Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show here with Mark Tennis of CalHighSports.com, the co-founder and editor. One of the most riveting times of the year for high school sports, especially football fans. It is Northern California Bowl Week here, and believe it or not, we have 4 area teams still around, an incredible number. Just even to have 4 of the 7 Sac Joaquin section champions be from the Records coverage area. We have St. Mary's, Manteca, Amador, Brookside Christian. St. Mary's gets to host the first state playoff game in the city of Stockton. Of course, the first time hosting for St. Mary's, which began as a program in 1928. According to Cal High's historical article, they host Freedom of Oakley, the North Coast section's open division runner-up to De La Salle, a team that won its first 11 games of the season. For you, Mark, and I know you do a great job looking at things historically, biggest game in Stockton history, especially involving a team from here. I know that there are some neutral site games here before, but this seems to be up there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we had the modern day De La Salle game in 1999, which was the second year those two played after an epic game in '98, and De La Salle actually used UOP to be the host for that year. That was a big game. But if you talk about teams from Stockton, playing a playoff game where the winner's going to go to the Division I AA state final, yeah, this is probably the biggest game that's been played here. But the bigger picture also has to be kept in mind, and that's what St. Mary's is playing for, which is a win to get to the next game, which would even be, of course, bigger, because then you're going to play either Cathedral Catholic of San Diego or Narbonne of Harbor City in the state championship game, and that's the second biggest state championship game on the docket behind the open division.
And that would be a heck of an advantage for St. Mary's, about a 50-minute trip up to Sacramento State. That'd be at 8 o'clock on a Friday night. They had an excellent fan showing for the Folsom game. I believe it would probably even increase or be comparable for a state championship game. So if they're able to do that, that would be huge. Now, looking at the game itself, St. Mary's is coming off a 31-point win over Folsom. One of Folsom's problems, and they got a ton of yards of offense. They have a great job with quick passes and kind of exploiting the soft underbelly of any defense. The problem is they couldn't really sustain longer drives when that passing game wouldn't work. They didn't have that running game as they have in years past. Freedom might be able to. They have a guy named Ronnie Rivers, who's a Fresno State verbal commit. He has a little over 2,000 rushing yards. Do you believe Freedom will be able to combat that St. Mary's defense led by its defensive line and actually get some longer drives to keep the Rams off the field? Because I was thinking about driving around today. St. Mary's has been held under 40 once this year against Bosco, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think the key might be, if Freedom can get Ronnie Rivers isolated on some linebackers in the open field, he can make a miss and get some big plays. It might not necessarily be in the running game. It might be some short passes where he's out there, because he can catch the ball as well. He's a great player. He breaks a lot of tackles. He's not really big, but he's had some pretty phenomenal games for them, and they've had success also in their return game. They've had different ways where they've been able to, stay with people. When you look at last week, and Freedom was just completely shut down by De La Salle, where they had minus rushing yardage for the entire game, and this is a team that had over 5,000 yards of offense coming in, with some really good passing and really good running. Their quarterback, Jonathan Pierce, throws it almost for as many yards as Rivers. It's going to be hard for, I think, Freedom to come back from that kind of a defeat. It was just, the level of domination, I think, is going to be tough. And then they're on the road, and St. Mary's is sky high. So it would be a very big upset at this point, in my opinion, if Freedom's able to really stay close.
I find the loss so interesting. You look at that southern section open game. It's kind of, if you lose, you're done. It's a little bit different now with the North Coast section. And I'm talking to Tony Frank, St. Mary's coach this week. Even he's wondering, how will that loss affect them? Is it, St. Mary's was their Super Bowl and they're just deflated now and their confidence is down? Or did it give them some venom after winning for so long? Will they have a little bit more wrath now? It's so hard to tell, not being around a team and not seeing how tired they are. I think, that's a factor that we won't really know until kickoff on Friday.
True.
We talked about Ronnie Rivers for St. Mary's. Dusty Franton, the junior, surpassed 1,800 rushing yards during that Folsom game. 30 carries for a career-high 283 yards. 36 touchdown. He's such a tough guy, and I'm going to focus on him for my bowl feature in the record on Friday. And he said of all the football he's played after that Folsom game, he was as sore as he'd ever been the next morning. I'm guessing he was pretty okay with that, being a section champion. And he's a guy who grew up on a ranch in Linden. He helped his dad. They own some cattle, and says that just kind of gave him an innate advantage to toughness. I think it's kind of funny how certain players or certain other teenagers get overwhelmed or get tired, and it doesn't really matter to him. I think it kind of helps to have that country strong guy this time of year.
You got the country strong, but I also in watching him play and run and watching him train, this is a kid who's done some training. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah,
he's done a lot of training with his running and his speed and a lot of other things. So there's the farm stuff, but there's also been some really good work with him in the weight room, some really good weight with him on the track for his running. He's a very well put together young man, and very similar to a player that St. Mary's ran up against in 2008 from Cathedral Catholic named Tyler Gaffney, scored 6 touchdowns against them. And if they do play Cathedral Catholic in 2 weeks, the Cathedral Catholic people will watch Dusty Frampton and think, gosh, if we ever knew where Tyler Gaffney came from, this is the next guy. So they're very similar type players, and it'll be interesting to see if they do play each other. And I like Dusty a lot and think he's had a great season, and he's certainly a candidate for a lot of the All-State underclass and then Junior Player of the Year type of awards.
Because of his strength and work ethic, whether he'd be a traditional tailback or not, I think he's one of those where a more pro-style offense like Stanford or maybe a lesser version of that should really consider him for college. I think he has that kind of strength that you really can't mimic. Manteca football, a 5-time section champion now. They were in a NorCal bowl game 3 years ago right here in Stockton at Lincoln. They had a 2-touchdown lead over Enterprise of Reading. They lost in a heartbreaking game for them. Coaching staff still here. All of their current players were either freshmen at the time, didn't get called up. Sophomores did, or they're in middle school, so they weren't on the field for that. They kind of just have the perspective of, we want to win one. They're going to Menlo Atherton, a school in Atherton that's got about 1,000 more students than Manteca. We both know that doesn't necessarily matter, but in some cases it gives you a wider pool of players. They run a different kind of offense than they see in the black and blue league, as East Union coach Willie Herrera likes to say, the VOL. They've got a shotgun, 4 wide receivers. Their quarterback does kind of an option thing. Road trip, different environment. It's hard to say with this one. I believe that whoever scores first will win, just because they believe they'll be able to dictate their tempo. The passing game, though, Manteca did an excellent job after falling behind against Placer in the section finals. Gino Campiotti had a career-high 22 pass attempts and threw for 318 and 4 touchdowns with no picks. I know initially you believe that Menlo Atherton might be on a different place in the bowl board, and that this might be a favorable matchup for Manteca.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad matchup for Manteca at all. I think Menlo Atherton, if people will look at it and go Central Coast Section Open Division I and think, wow, that's the best team in the Central Coast Section. No, I don't think they are. The Central Coast Section Division II Open champion, San Mateo Serra, would be higher ranked than them. Their Division III, which is Valley Christian, would be higher ranked than them, and so would Palma, possibly of Salinas, which Palma lost to Valley Christian 14-10. Menlo Atherton has beat Bellarmine twice, or they avenged an early loss to Bellarmine. It's kind of a down year for Bellarmine, so it is kind of hard to figure out just how good MA is this year. And this is a good spot for Manteca. There certainly is a team that beat Oakdale. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball. I think Gino Campiotti is proving to be certainly a Division I prospect for next season. And, Manteca has some other very outstanding juniors. So I think this is a spot where they could win. I don't think they're a big underdog or anything like that close. I think it's a toss-up game for sure.
Mendota going to Amador in the Division VI AA game. Bit of a Mother-Lode League brotherhood. It'll be played at Calaveras, a little bit more of a capacity, some natural surface. It should be an enormous Amador crowd out there. It has been on the road in Stockton and San Francisco last week. I imagine it will be again on Friday night. Amador, as you mentioned, they're a 3-time Central Section champ. They're undefeated a few years ago, but that was when you had to be picked to play a bowl game. They were not picked now. They're going to get their chance no matter what. What's your outlook for this game? I think we probably both like Amador, just with their momentum and basically the home field here.
The home field's there. It's a little bit of a step up for Mendota from the level they're used to. They have a quarterback with 86 career touchdown passes. They've also been a team that's historically been able to run the ball really well. But it's a bit of a step up for Mendota to go play at Amador. Amador's from the Motherlode League, used to playing Calaveras, used to playing Sonora. Sonora was, lost to Capital Christian in a big upset in the D5. So I think it's just a step up for Mendota, despite them being undefeated. And I think it'll be tougher for them to win on the road in this atmosphere.
The only game for an area team on Saturday is Brookside Christian, the Section's Division 7 champion, going to St. Patrick St. Vincent of Vallejo. And they just beat Fort Bragg in a North Coast section game last week. Brookside, as you've said, has some skill position guys like Ruben Lee, Justin Williams, their quarterback, Quincy Glasper, who are probably the best in that division. St. Patrick's, though, might bring more depth. And as you said, they might have even been playing down a division in their playoffs from what they could have been.
Yeah, I think so. St. Patrick used to be called just St. Patrick of Vallejo. They've won Sac Joaquin section titles before. They were in the North Coast. They're a former Sac Joaquin section school, St. Patrick of Vallejo, and St. Mary's used to play them way back in the day, a lot of times in football. They merged to become St. Patrick, St. Vincent with the girls a few years ago. And traditionally, they've been in Division 4, which is with Cardinal Newman, Marin Catholic, and some of those schools. And this year they were in Division 5, so they are 11-3. They're from the same division. Berean Christian was what we thought would probably be out of that bracket in the games. So they've got some depth and a nice small school, parochial Catholic school program. They've been good for a long time, a lot of good coaches over the years. And it's hard to say, Brookside, I think, has some players that they don't have, but they may, like you said, they may have some depth. It'll be another close game. The bottom line for all these four teams, local teams, none of them are, I would say, underdogs. The toss-ups at the best, and St. Mary's, I think, is a pretty big favorite at the most. So there is a chance they could all win, and we could all be 4-0 and go on for state titles. This definitely could happen.
It's pretty incredible. And a quick bit of history: Escalon, I believe it was either 2008 or 2010. I think it was 2010. Became the first state champion from the area. Sierra did it last year, so these teams looking to become number 3. There is not a state champion from the city of Stockton, so St. Mary's and Brookside have a chance to do that. Mark Tennis of Cal High Sports. Again, Cal High Sports, the Gold Club membership, state record books, insider content. They started up some section football rankings this year, and state volleyball top 20. Some of my favorite things. That's less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month. And thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thank you. We'll see what happens.